Hi, I'm Franco Puerio Scubna, and this is the Director's Commentary for Senior Skip Day. How does Senior Skip Day use conventions or challenge conventions and represent social groups and issues? Well, Senior Skip Day was intended to be a comical portrayal of something that teenagers all experience in their lives. When my partner and I were brainstorming and writing the script for Senior Skip Day, we were intending it to give the effect of portraying a real-life situation that everyone can relate to, but adding a bit of comedy in there. See, teenagers in media are generally portrayed in ways that make them seem naive, ignorant, or in other ways, silly, as one would say. And we tried to use that in our portrayals of our characters during Senior Skip Day, and we also added bits of dialogue and funny acting to give off the effects of this is something you would see in real life, but it's just a little funnier for the screen. Another convention used in Senior Skip Day was the trope of the authority figures playing the primary antagonists. The obstacles to our characters in the film are, of course, parents and their rules, teachers, and the idea of school itself. It represents the object of the film. The goal is to break out. Senior Skip Day attempts to engage the audience through comedy. In all comedies, it's important to grab the audience and give them something they can laugh about because they understand it, because they've been there. It's something we try to do in the movie by giving our target audience, which would be teenagers, a story of something that they've probably been through or at least witnessed. It may be a little exaggerated, not exactly how you'd go through it in normal life, but it's still something that's understood, that it's relatable. Many of the scenes we've tried to start off, for example, the beginning scene starts off a very mundane classroom scene. You don't really know what's about to happen. It's quiet, you see a classroom, and then all of a sudden, in comes frantic music, loud talking, quick talking, and you're introduced to the plot. There's a party, a student is at school, his friends are going to break him out. That introduces an element of excitement to the audience. The audience was just introduced to a regular old boring school day, and now here we have an exciting plot that we're about to witness. And that's how we try to engage the audience, by surprising them with something slightly unexpected. If this project were to be a real film distributed out to real audiences, our target demographic would most definitely be young adults and teenagers, because obviously that's who's being portrayed in the film and that's who would relate to it most, so they would find it the most entertaining. If we were to do that, I think the best way to go about doing that would be, no doubt, using forms of social media that would easily get their attention. It's widely known that sites like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, those are all frequently used by teenagers, which is our target audience. So the best way to advertise Senior Skip Day, if it were real, would be put advertisements on these sites like Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, and engage the audience that way, because generally it's widely known that when something's seen on these sites, teenagers are exposed to them, and it generally becomes a trend amongst them. While social media is no doubt the most popular form of media among teenagers and young adults, television is definitely still up there as one of the best ways to advertise. It's tried and true. It's been proven through just experience that any film, you want to get it out to the audience, advertising through television is a great way to do it. Put it on the stations where the primary demographic is the same as our film, which would be stations probably like MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, things that the teenage demographic widely views. And that would be a good way to get it out there. How did my production skills developed throughout this project? Well, prior to this project and prior to this Cambridge Media Studies class, I had already taken several years of broadcast journalism as a precursor. And so I've had experience, and I have developed a skill set already that allows me to do things such as write storyboards, create ideas, film these ideas, and then edit them on the computer and watch them come to fruition. So this wasn't something that was foreign to me, but it was definitely taken with a little more care than usual so that we could make something that was really professional looking, so that we'd get the best possible grade on our paper for Cambridge, because who doesn't want a good grade, right? And although we did have previous experience in this field and we did have skills already, throughout the process of making this project, our skills were definitely put to the test. They were put through the grinder, and they were enhanced and refined, I would say. For example, the beginning of the process, we wrote the story, brainstormed it. Normally that's something that could be done in a few days. We definitely took our time with this one though. Maybe, we took a little longer than usual because we wanted to get it right. And we wanted to put the details in there. We wanted every little thing to be funny. Every single bit of dialogue we tried to make as funny and as realistic as possible. And I think that was something that we known how to do, but we learned how to do it better. We learned how to really articulate throughout this process and how to take what we envision and put it on the screen. Along with the brainstorming process and the refinement of my writing skills during this project, the filming and editing processes were also a learning experience for me. I learned how to use new equipment that I'd never used before. I've always had access to it in this class, but I'd never thought to use it. But for this project, we were really wanting to push the limit. We wanted to make it better than anything we've done before. And so we used, primarily for filming, we used a Nikon camera on a Ronin, and that really gave our shots that extra push, I think, that we were going for. And as far as editing, we also used After Effects, a program that we don't use frequently because we wanted to use it to create extra things that would make our project look better. We used After Effects to make the titles and the title sequence in the project because they're animated and it makes them look a little more professional. So overall, throughout my experience creating Senior Skip Day, it was a good learning experience for me. While I did already have previous experience in the field, I knew how to film, I knew how to edit, I knew how to do things like that, my skill set most definitely was broadened and refined to the point where I think I've grown from this project, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that. And I believe it goes without saying that the creation of a media product requires technology. In the world we're in today, technology is everywhere. It's growing all around us, and it's inevitable that as we grow, our forms of media will grow as well. While we were making Senior Skip Day, we used varieties of forms of hardware and software, as well as other online resources. As far as hardware goes, we used several cameras such as a Sony X1, a Nikon, Panasonic cameras. We also used a boom microphone, lapel microphones, and we had a Ronin that we used for the majority of our shots with the Nikon camera. And the Ronin was a very helpful tool, invaluable tool. It allowed us to broaden our range of shot selection because instead of simple straight shots and pans, we were allowed to have free movement with the camera. We can go up and down, left to right, back and forth, and it was stabilized with the Ronin. And that's something that allowed us to have unique shots in our project that I think turned out very good and even better than I expected them to. When it comes to software, we also were very lucky to have access to high quality forms of professional editing software such as Final Cut Pro, Adobe Photoshop, and After Effects. These programs are what allowed us to edit our project, and Final Cut Pro was the primary program that we used. When editing, that's where I put everything down, I put it all together, made corrections to sound, to color, and I added sound effects, things like that, that overall came together to make the project what it was. Not just clips of videos, but an experience. We also used After Effects. It was very important in the making of the titles for the film because we didn't want to use basic templates for titles. We wanted them to look more unique, and we wanted them to look exciting, something new. So we used After Effects, a program that we had never used before, and it turned out well. I think it turned out well. Some of the online resources we had access to include video blogs, audio blogs, and YouTube. Primarily we used audio blogs for acquiring sound effects that went into adding to scenes in the film, and we used YouTube to acquire parts of songs that we wanted to use, and of course we made sure that we only used 10% of them as to not infringe on copyright. And I think those were important because they give that effect, because everyone knows music and sound has a very large effect on what we see, because sometimes the eyes can play tricks on you, but the ears never will. And music in general has a huge effect in a film, and that's why we thought it was important. So it was good that we can integrate the use of YouTube and audio blogs and other online resources that we had into our project. Senior Skip Day was, of course, a form of media, and without the availability of the technology that we used, the hardware, software, and other online resources, it simply would have not been possible. Making videos, making movies, it's an art form, and every art form requires its tools, and the tools of digital media, such as making films and videos, are hardware, software, and other forms of technology. And they are great tools. They're very useful tools in getting our point across and allowing us to paint the picture of our vision and create great videos and great products.